how does this play out? So, Mom, go ahead and role play with me.
Okay.
Okay?
Let's do this.
I was like, me and you we're married, right? We're married. And you say, Mom, I think I want to have her into the group. And she calls and she says, Shanae. So you call me. Hello.
Hey, Shanae.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Who you calling for? Oh, Alizar. You calling for Alizar?
Yes.
On my phone.
Yes. Well,
I'm gonna give the phone to him, and
Let
I'm
him
gonna sit
explain.
right here, and we're gonna see how this works out for you, Rhonda. I don't know if it's gonna go in your favor. You ever see Martin? Remember in the stand-up where he say, "Oh, you the coke checking bitch? Check him, bitch. That's me." But I'm gonna let him holler at you. Give me a minute. Alizar, this girl on the phone. So you talk to her. How does this go? I'm sitting here listening to you. How does this go?
I mean, it's not gonna go there.
so how does it go? Like, so you're already married with Shanae, and then you meet some fly hung out in the streets or wherever you meet her, at church or wherever y'all meet up, and then you come to her and you say, listen, I'm already married, but I want to invite you in our group or our marriage, or how does that go?
I mean, it's about connections. If I start gauging women by the weight that they hold, you may meet a girl, and she may be cool, and she may be cute or whatever, but you may be feeling her a little bit, but you're not feeling her that much. It's not weighing on you like that. You're not thinking throughout your day, you ain't thinking about her. Like if you see it, if she posts up on Instagram, you be like, damn, yeah, her. And then that'll be it, right? She's like, you don't want to give yourself to her. That's not the girl that you want to bring into the situation. But when you meet a girl that's heavy and that's weighing on you, feel so way about, then of course, now we are having a conversation about getting involved. But also, it's not a secret. Like me, especially, you know, people who know me knows what I do. It's not a secret, right? So if you're talking to me, this is what comes with that. You see what I'm saying? You're not going to be in this situation by yourself. You're not going to get in here and move nobody out of the way. Everybody got to get in here and play the position. You know what I'm saying? It's a team. I'm the coach, and we're here to win championships. You know what I'm saying?
There's so many questions with that.
In my mind, I just keep hearing you the coach checking bitch. I just can't get past that line in my head.
So, do they all have equal weights?
You said it's different levels.
I mean, so the 2 women that you choose, or the 5 women you choose, or how many your number is, are they all treated the same somehow?
Yeah,
or how does that?
they have to be. They have to be.
So I got a ring, she got a ring?
Nobody's getting
She said, right, you said a ring.
Yeah.
Oh, right? It's all right.
Well,
That's a shirt, man.
you know.
You take 3 days, she take 3 days.
Oh,
that's
no.
Split on Sunday, let it rest on Sunday. I'm going to start with this question. You guys have preached to us that the Bible speaks of polygyny being okay and that it's acceptable for a man to have multiple wives according to the Bible. But I found this verse, 1 Corinthians 7, and it states polygamy is unlawful, which you said polygyny is something different, and that one man is to have but one wife and to keep her, and that one woman is to have but one husband and to keep him, and the wife only has the power over the husband's body and a right to it. And it goes on from there. But the part that stood out to me the most is that very first line. It says, and that a man is to have but one wife. And that's biblical, but that goes against what you guys preach. So can you talk to that?
Definitely. I'm gonna have Hassad address that.
All right. Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, no, it's a good question. And I was looking at the comment board and I seen a lot of similar questions. So I'm glad we get to address it. So when you understand, especially Paul, who's the one that authored 1 Corinthians 7, in the same chapter, he says, let me just read this just for clarification. In 1 Corinthians 7 and 6, because he's giving advice as to how a marriage should be conducted between a man and a woman, etc. So he says in verse 6, but I speak this by permission and not of commandment. So what Paul is saying right here is he's giving advice, number one. Number two, polygyny and polygamy are 2 different things. So when it talks about a man and a woman, with the verse you just read, a man can have multiple wives. A woman cannot have multiple husbands. That's what polygamy, or in some practices, polyandry is. But the act of polygyny, which again is not the same as polygamy, is lawful as stated in the Bible. For example, Christ says in Matthew 25, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man that has 10 virgin wives. Why, if something is an unlawful practice, would the Son of God liken the kingdom of heaven unto that polygynous practice?
But when you say liken, is it like, is that saying, for example?
What do you
You know what
mean?
I'm saying? Like, is he saying it like that? Is that how it should be read? For example, it like likened to this scenario. You know what I'm saying? But not actually meaning it in the literal sense, just saying figuratively speaking. Is that how it's
It's a parable, but the point
okay.
is, why would Christ, who's the Son of God, use something that's unlawful or something that's a wicked act in his parable? You see what I'm saying?
The question goes, I guess, when we're talking about the Bible in just the entire sense of it, when we continue to talk about things that we do or they did and we don't do now, right? When I hear you say you can have multiple wives because they did it in the Bible, I automatically go to well, they rode donkeys in the Bible too, but we're not doing that. They rode camels in the Bible, but we're not doing that. There are a lot of, they sat in non-air conditioned units, but we're not doing that. So we're still picking and choosing things that they did in the Bible in the early Testament or Old Testament, and we're cherry picking what we're going to use and apply to today. Because clearly I read a couple scriptures where it says whether it's the king should not be greedy, or, and it depends on, greedy is subject to interpretation, but it also talks about, clearly said, he should have one wife. When a man findeth a wife, he findeth something good. And then it goes into talk about divorce. So I really want to pivot kind of into that, especially for you, Brian, because you have a wife, and if you reference having sex as your kind of pillar that we talked about in the first episode, that this, once we have sex, I'm laying with you, we become one flesh, you are now my wife. I'm sure in your course of dating and having sex, you've had more than one wife. So how do you go through the divorce process
Well,
of that?
well, first off, divorce is not something that's lawful unless your wife commits adultery. I can't just divorce her because I'm tired of her. I can't divorce her because I met somebody else. So also the things that I did before I came into the truth, the things that I did before I became the person who picks up this Bible and studies it every day and keeps the laws and gave true repentance, that's what the grace is for, is that the things that you did in ignorance, that you are forgiven for once you start to come into this truth and keep these laws and statutes and commandments. So, like I said, divorce is not something we don't deal with divorce unless your significant other commits adultery. You have no reason to divorce your wife.
Now we're hearing the scriptures tell us the same authority that a father has over his daughter is the same authority that a husband has over his wife, right? To either allow her to do things or disallow her to do things at his discretion, right? A man does not have an authoritarian over him that delegates that to him like that, like we see the woman having scripturally. You see what I'm saying? So this is why a man can decide to do certain things, but a woman is not afforded those same privileges.
So then you would, then if that's the context that you're taking it, right? Then you would be of where it says, you would be of the mind that a husband can't rape his wife then, because it's according to the Bible, biblically, a woman can't hold back her body from her husband because that her body is his. So what you're saying then is, in essence, because biblically speaking, as a wife and your duties, you no longer have control, or you no longer have control of your body or your desires or what you want. It now goes from your father to your husband.
What about a wife raping a husband? Does that happen?
But that's not the question she asked.
No, but scripturally it is. Just as a man, men and women according to scriptures are not to withhold sex from one another, right? So just as much as a woman isn't supposed to, a man isn't allowed to either. That's literally called the duty of marriage. So a man, matter of fact, what is that? Exodus 21 and 10.
Yeah, somebody just put that in the chat. Exodus.
I just seen it too. That's crazy, right? But which is a great scripture, right? If you could read it real quick. Because it tells you that a man owes that to his wife. Even if he gets another wife, he still owes her sex.
There's so many interesting things about this, obviously, because we live in America and 2021 and our laws are different. Or so they seem anyway, but it's profound that a woman under these teachings, that a woman literally has no rights. But the other thing that's a little bit confusing is that you are joined together purely by your sexual encounter, from what I think one of you guys said. So just having sex alone means that's your wife, right?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, you got to, look at it. I mean, if this bond is between you, your wife, and the Most High, then what does some preacher, coming presiding over a ceremony have to do with that bond? You know what I mean?
I'm interested in in your opinion, what makes great sex? What does that mean? I mean, so what's bad sex and what's really great sex that makes you think of somebody the next day?
Well, I think for the most part, it's got to be the connection, right? You got to be like kind of vibed up where the electricity is happening, even when you're not physically next to each other. Even the idea of thinking about this person gives you energy, right? And so, and then as you actually have the physical contact, it's usually about just the whole connection, right? Is the touch right? Is the level of passion there? Is the level of creativity there? Do we actually even beyond the sex, do we have a connection that makes the sex even higher, right? Where you like, yo, I'm just so like vibing with you. This, Tina used that term, but I'm so vibing with you that if we physically rock and it's dope and we together, that becomes very great sex. You like, man, this is good. I don't want you to go afterwards. I want to grab a little something to eat. We want to lay up. We want to do it again. We both want that, And then you got those situations where, it ain't that. It just ain't that. It ain't, y'all agreed. Everybody agreed to have sex, so we doing it. But she ain't got no motion. This nigga ain't got no stroke. Y'all just kiss you all hard. And niggas slobbing and shit. You like, man, it's just, the motherfucker, you look up, it's nigga got hips. You like, this nigga got hips. Nigga, it's just throwing you off. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't, you like this nigga come out the bathroom with hips, nigga. Hold on, nigga. That's a lot. Then you got,
Dad,
you
you the dumbest
got
nigga in the
this,
world. Did you just say this nigga got hips? I'm not fucking
hips
talking
and
to you
shit,
no
right?
more after this. This shit is over.
I'm just saying the shit that girls got to go through too. I could imagine, right? Like, I remember one time this girl wouldn't take her waist trainer off. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard. Like you like, this is weird. Like, just too weird. Like, never mind. Like, we good. We're not gonna do this no more.
No, it's real. It's real out here. It's real out here.
It's real. You be like, people got their own. People got hang-ups that's, they go way back. So it's things that people don't do. Like, I don't do that. And then they take that attitude about it, right? So, one, it might be a vibe, but if somebody like literally offended by like, something that, not even just oral sex. It's just people like, just don't do that. Like, don't grab my hair from the back. Don't do that. Don't, I don't want to be on top. You be like, you don't want to be on top. Like, I don't like that. Okay. But if you saying it while we doing it, it turned the whole thing off. Like, it's one thing, like, it's got to be really good and you can discover that. Like, okay, like that ain't quite our move, but we still having a good time. But some people, they get so caught, they're, very angst about their situations that it'll put them in an anxiety scenario. And it just turn everything crazy. Next thing you know, you be like, Ain't doing that shit no more. You know, them motherfuckers start crying. Nigga, I'm thinking I'm doing the light choke move, and this motherfucker crying and shit.
That's right, Sam. Turn up. Sam, turn up. Let's go.
That's a light choke move.
It's a light choke. It ain't no
Let's get it.
overhand, little pressure.
So pressure.
Look.
Come in, Cedric the entertainer.
You have sons and daughters.
I do.
And the sex talk has to happen with both.
Mm-hmm.
How do you address that type of conversation as a father to your sons, as opposed to how you talk to your daughters about being intimate and when's the right time?
Well, there are things about that conversation that are astronomically different, and there are things that are inherently the same.
Okay.
The thing that is the same, I both tell them, don't get got.
Don't get God.
That's,
Wow. Don't get God. Don't get God.
Like,
Don't get God.
the thing that tethers those very different discussions together, don't get got. You know what I mean?
Can you break that down?
Well, okay, let's say for my daughter, I tell her, hey, listen, you are filled with magic. Okay? You are filled with magic, and who you share that magic with should be your decision. It should come on your terms, and it should happen in your time. Don't get got. Don't get tricked out your magic, because once you give it, it's gone. You see what I'm saying?
That's big right there. Goodness gracious that.
And for my sons, it's more like, okay, look, you have everything that women who lack drive and who want an easy way out prey on. You have all that. You have good looks. You got, affluence. You come from a lineage of success, and those are things that women who target men to live off of. Those are traits that they identify with. They look for that. Don't get got. Don't get got, because you could trick yourself into thinking that you getting them. You might think you the one that came up. Oh man, I just met this one last night. Yeah, I just went over there, man, and
he just
got her.
Yeah. He just rubbing his head.
6 months later, she like, yeah, I met this one.
Look, got him. Right, 18
Got him over here. Got him.
Lord.
I got him.
This is a trip. In the book I wrote, I talked about compatibility. And in the church, what we do is we tend to put spirituality before compatibility. And the truth of the matter is you can teach spirituality. I can teach you how to pray. I can teach you how to read scripture. I can teach you all those things, but I can't teach you to like what I like. Because if you don't like it, you're just not going to like it. So, that's the reason why I believe most relationships fall apart. Because we tend to look for the wrong things rather than looking for compatibility to be the foundation of what we want. So I just want somebody that's going to be compatible and that's ride or die.
What about social media? How do you think that that's affected dating in 2020, 2021, moving forward?
Everybody's sliding into folks' DMs in this day.
Oh, don't slide. What you know about sliding in somebody's DM, Pastor?
No. I think what social media has done is it's given us the ability to create imagery and facades that aren't real. I just really think that the whole concept and aspect of us really getting to know somebody. I'm old school. I just think things can get lost in translation. Right. So it's always better to communicate verbally than to get caught up in somebody's chats or in their social media platforms, because again, we only see what you let us see.
Right.
You ain't letting me see the real you. You showing me all of what you wanted me to see to make me believe that you are all that. And the truth of the matter is that's not what I need to know. I need to know your flaws and all. And I think that puts us in a better position to be able to make decisions on if this is the direction we want to go into or not. And that's not a slight against you. That's just saying we don't click. And why would I want to consider somebody why would I want to consider a lifetime decision over somebody that I don't click with?
Right. That's so true.
Ridiculous. I mean, who wants to live in that kind of hell?
Just to keep it a buck, like there's a flip
That's the
side of
part
that.
that pisses you off, though, the deception. Like, we get all of that, and it's good for y'all, but to be left in the blind of what you don't want to know, but that's where the problem come in at when you do find out, or if you even start speculating. Like, we think about that as
How
women.
did this conversation start?
I mean,
Shanae looked at me and said, what about when the dick gets 67% erect? I call my girl, I call my other girl, I'm having a group brunch, we talking about my man's dick. You think he wants that?
no,
but if he...
But I don't think we mean in your relationship. It's when
You-
you're starting out.
You know what she didn't say?
What?
You know, my man, I love him. He's with me every night. Yeah, his dick is like 67%, but he's the best. He loves me. I
You know
love
why?
him.
'Cause
We
this-
take walks on the beach. We have fine dinners looking over the water. We,
It's
you know,
emotional
nah,
for us.
we ride horses. Like, fuck all that. You're calling your girl to talk about 67% hard dick, okay?
But when once you're in a solid relationship, you don't.
Don't
talk
say
about
solid. We're talking about 67%.
She said 67% arousal erection. But I'm
That's a
talking about
67% relationship.
Right. You know, I can
Oh, I
remember,
guess.
being married and things changing because, we started dating, like I said, in our teens, and then we're in our 20s. Now we're in our late 20s, and our bodies are changing. Our things that we like are changing. He's, had injuries, and he's taking different pills, and you don't know why things don't work like they did when you were 22 at 29, and you don't know. And like you said, men they're emotional, and they get embarrassed, and it's frustrating because they may not know. And especially for Black men, a lot of them are not going to call a doctor and say, hey.
Repeat that one for the slow ones in the back. Like, yes, everything you just said. Guys go through that. That shit fucks guys up.
Yeah, and I remember.
And they come in. I've had guys crying and all the kinds of shit, breaking down, and you have no idea, but it fucks people up. But and that's why it's messed up. But that's why the defense mechanism is okay, she feels like it's her. Great, thank God. I'll just play it off like it's her.
Right.
And it's usually not.
But a lot of people, like we talked about, the level of communication. I'm a communicator. So I'm like, hey, babe, things are not where they used to be. Whether there was a time period when he would, just come too quick. And you're like, but again, where our bodies are changing. We're not teenagers anymore. Mm-hmm. We're learning each other. Where things are feeling different. We're growing into each other, and you have to communicate. A lot of Black people don't communicate, and they don't go see a doctor when something is wrong. They just say, oh, I must have drank too much last night. Well, this shit happens and you had apple juice all day. What the fuck? Come on now, work with me. And then it escalates, and then not everybody is insured, not everybody's comfortable enough, all these other elements, and they don't get dealt with. And so he says, well, let me go sleep with this chick and see if my dick still do the same thing with her. Now you're destroying what you've built, trying to figure out what the fuck is wrong with you, or if it's better somewhere else, instead of having the conversation and then talking to a professional about what may or may not be wrong. So that is why you're here.